All right, today we're going to get into something that's pretty controversial, but also, incredibly important. We're talking about the link between the sugar in our food and the growth of cancer. Let's dive in. So, let's just get right to it. Does sugar literally feed cancer? It's a really blunt question, right? But the answer, well, it uncovers this fascinating, almost criminal, biological drama. To really get it, we have to uncover a cellular heist that kind of starts right in our kitchens. The first part of this whole story really just begins with a simple fact. We are all consuming a truly staggering amount of sugar, and a lot of it's hidden in places you would never, ever expect. Just look at that number, 130 pounds. According to data that was cited on 60 Minutes, that is the average amount of sugar each person in the U.S. eats every single year. Let that sink in. That's about 1/3 of a pound of sugar every single day.
And if you're wondering where that 130 pounds is coming from, it's not just from soda and cake. This data from the National Cancer Institute shows we're averaging over 22 teaspoons of added sugar a day. It's hiding in plain sight in our bread, sauces, even yogurt. It's basically everywhere in the modern diet.
So what's actually happening inside our bodies when all this sugar shows up? Well, it kicks off a chain reaction, and it starts the very second that sugar hits our system.
Okay, so here's something you have to understand. Not all sugars are the same. Our bodies absolutely need glucose. It's the main fuel for our brain and our cells. But fructose, which you find in things like high fructose corn syrup, that's a whole different ballgame. It's processed almost entirely by the liver, and it doesn't send the same signals to your brain that say, hey, you're full, which of course can lead to eating way more than we should.
So whenever we eat sugar, our pancreas releases a hormone to deal with it, and that hormone is insulin. The easiest way to think about insulin is like a key. Its whole job is to unlock our cells so that glucose can get inside and be used for energy. And this key, insulin, is really the central character in this entire story.
And now, let's bring in the villain of our story, the cancer cell. You see, normal, healthy cells have a pretty regulated appetite. Cancer cells, on the other hand, they are absolutely ravenous, and they have a favorite food. And this is why. It's because of a phenomenon called the Warburg effect, which was actually discovered almost 100 years ago. Cancer cells get their energy in a totally different way. Instead of using oxygen to efficiently burn glucose, they just ferment it. Now, this is a really messy and inefficient way to make energy, but, and this is the key, it is incredibly fast. And that speed allows them to fuel their rapid growth, which makes them just desperate for glucose. So on one hand, we've got a flood of sugar coming into the body. And on the other, we have these cancer cells that are desperate for that exact fuel. So how do they connect? Well, they don't just sit there and wait for it. No, they actively hijack the body's entire delivery system.
And this is exactly how they pull it off. Research has shown that a lot of common cancers, like breast cancer and colon cancer, have actually developed insulin receptors all over their surface. They've literally evolved to listen in on the body's signals about sugar being available.
Let's just break down this cellular heist, step by step. Step 1, you eat sugar and your insulin levels spike in your blood. Step 2, that insulin, that key we talked about, circulates around and finds these special receptors on the surface of a tumor and it locks on. Step 3, that connection acts like a secret password, basically shouting to the tumor, hey, the fuel is here, open the gates and start chugging glucose. And you don't have to take my word for it. This quote from Dr. Lewis Cantley at Harvard just says it all perfectly. The insulin doesn't just allow the tumor to take up glucose, it stimulates it too. The cancer cell is basically hijacking the fuel meant for your healthy cells and using it to grow bigger and more dangerous.
But this whole direct fueling of tumors, believe it or not, that isn't the only problem. This constant overload of sugar, especially that fructose, creates a pretty toxic environment in the body that has other really serious consequences.
Our liver really takes the hit when it comes to processing fructose, and when it gets overwhelmed, it starts turning that excess fructose into fat. This leads to a condition called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or NAFLD, which is now estimated to affect about 1/3 of the entire global population. It's a massive problem. And this slide shows a really dangerous progression. What starts as just a little fat in the liver can turn into inflammation, a condition known as NASH. From there, it can lead to scarring, or cirrhosis. And cirrhosis is a major risk factor for developing the most common type of liver cancer. It is just a devastating chain reaction, all kicked off by being metabolically overloaded.
When you look at all of this evidence, it really forces you to challenge one of the most common pieces of advice we've all heard about diet, and to totally rethink how we see the energy in our food.
I mean, we've all heard this mantra, right? A calorie is a calorie is a calorie. Well, this quote from nutritional biologist Kimber Stanhope just hits the nail on the head. Her research clearly showed that where your calories come from matters. A calorie from sugar, because of the whole hormonal mess it can create, is absolutely not the same as a calorie from protein or fiber.
So, what's a safe amount then? Well, major health bodies, like the World Health Organization, have a really clear recommendation. They say that added sugars should make up less than 10% of our total daily calories. Now, let's just put that 10% into perspective, okay? For an average 2,000-calorie diet, that comes out to about 12 teaspoons of sugar. Now think about this. A single can of soda can have almost that entire amount. It just shows how incredibly easy it is for our modern diet to push us way, way over that recommended limit.
So does sugar feed cancer? The science is pretty clear. Through that insulin pathway, it gives certain tumors the signal they need to hijack fuel and grow. So the real question this leaves us with is this. If a natural substance like sugar can be the key to this whole cellular heist, what other accomplices might be hiding in our diet?